This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning, students. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Can you see the notes?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. In the last class, we have tried understanding what is vaccine, why it is given, what is the need for pharmacoepidemiology in the measurement of vaccine safety, and why vaccine safety data is less. What are the factors that influence the small data towards vaccine safety, right? I hope you are very clear about it. Now we are going to understand further that there are issues that is surrounding the vaccine safety, in addition to the factors that we have seen generally. So specifically, we are going to understand today two types of issues, which we are going to say policy issues, which are around the vaccine safety, right? Now, before we understand, we need to understand what is policy. Then only the remaining facts becomes clear. Now, Ria, can you tell me what is policy? Ria Sara?
So certain guidelines or certain things that they may provide when something is introduced into the market. Rules and
Introduce
regulations. Rules
rules.
and regulations.
Uh-huh.
Then
Whether policy is different from rules and regulations?
yes, sir.
In
Like
what way?
it's um, like it's proposed by an organization for a particular people. Policies like LIC policies. So
Correct, correct, very correct.
and
Policies, yeah, yeah. You told the definition. It's fine. We'll move on. No problem. Perfect definition you have told.
so,
So, policy is the rules and regulations that is applicable for a set of people working in an organization, that is known as policy. Organization can be institution, it can be hospital or industry or any other system that is called as organization. So the rules and regulations applicable for one organization is called as policy matter, okay, or policy. So certain types of issues or the problems comes out when the vaccines are made and used. Let us understand one by one what are they. The first one is vaccine formulation. Vaccine formulation. If you take a vaccine formulation, it contains immunogen, conjugated protein, preservative, adjuvant, stabilizer, and diluent. So one vaccine will contain these many components: immunogen, conjugated protein, preservative, adjuvant, and stabilizer, and including the diluent. Correct. So we also know from the pharmacy background, yes, these are the components are present. Now, what is the problem, you can ask? What may be the issue which comes out? Can anybody guess what would be the problem which may come out? Anybody? Or Tenzin?
We cannot
Ah,
understand
yeah.
the problem is either from the vaccine or due to the adjuvants added into the formulation.
Okay. What kind of issue you're expecting?
Like the problems arises due to the vaccine.
Vaccine component, you mean, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, problem do arises because of the vaccine. But what type of problem may come out? This is what my question is. Problem is there. Can you guess what may be the problem? Okay, no
Sir,
worries.
sometimes
Yeah, go ahead.
instability of adjoint may occur.
May occur. So what it leads to what?
Adverse effect.
Yes, exactly. So your guess is perfect. Now, usually we know that vaccines produces adverse effects. Correct? We are very clear about it. But you do not know which component has produced such adverse effect. Among these, you do not know which component was responsible for producing adverse effect or adverse consequences. With the drug, we were very clear, one drug, one adverse effect. But vaccine contains, say in this case, 5 components. So you do not know which component is responsible or produced the adverse consequence. So that is the first issue associated with the vaccine formulation, right? Vaccine formulation. I hope this is clear to everyone. Anybody has any doubt in this? Can we move on to the next one, next policy?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Next policy issue is that, say, you will have vaccines in different vials. Say, for example, one vial contains vaccine number 1, another vial contains vaccine number 2, another vial contains vaccine number 3. Let us say that one is for mumps, one is for measles, one other one is for the pertussis problem. Now, when you want to inject the vaccines which are in different vials, you're going to mix up. You're going to mix up and administer. So what happened? What can go wrong if you mix up the vaccines? Benzene,
Yes,
benzene.
sir.
What
Yes, sir.
happens when you mix up the vaccine?
Hello, sir. Can you repeat once? Like that sound is breaking, sir.
Okay, what happens when you mix 3 different vaccines?
Three different vaccines. Toxicity may occur. Toxicity.
Okay. Irene Sarah, Irene
Yes,
Sarah,
sir.
what can go wrong if you mix the, you know, vaccines?
Sir, more side effects may happen.
Okay. Any other problem you may come across?
Um, mm, I don't know, sir.
Anjuvarki. Anjuvarki.
Yes, sir.
What happens?
Sir, the required effect won't be produced.
Required effect may not be produced. See, vaccine number 1, vaccine number 2, 3 will have their own components. All are not same. When you try to mix up, either adverse consequences will happen because of the reaction, or they won't produce the effect, or the activity or the effect of one vaccine will be nullified or will be neutralized by the other vaccine components. So what happens? There is a total loss of efficacy of the mixture or mixture vaccine which is given. So it should never be mixed together unless the manufacturer has mentioned it. You cannot take over your own decision to mix up and give it, because the vaccine will not be effective. Next policy issues is that administration errors such as unsafe injection. What may be this? Can you guess? Lakshmi,
Yes, sir.
what may go wrong?
Sir, it may cause some transmission of bloodborne diseases.
Unsafe, what do you mean by unsafe injection?
Not safe.
I know that. Not safe is unsafe. So what do you mean by that, unsafe injection?
It's given not an appropriate dose.
Yeah, it is given in an inappropriate dose, number one, and the um, safe administration procedure is not followed, not at the right site of injection. The needle might not have entered it, or the area where the vaccination is done might have not been, what do you say, cleaned with the spirit, which can kill the microorganisms surrounding the site of injection, right? So these are the administration errors which one may come across and may lead to vaccine inefficiency or loss of toxicity associated with the vaccine, or exaggerated effect of the vaccine may take place. This is clear. Issue number 3 is clear to everyone. Next one is vaccines are administered to healthy people who have less tolerance than ill patients. This factor produces rare to very rare adverse events. Why they say this? What may be the reason for this? Anne Maria?
Since I'm positive. No, I don't know, sir.
Atira James, what may be the reason for such kind of policy?
Uh, because healthy people have like they can fight, they have more immunity than the people who are already ill, so that they'll be able to fight when vaccines and they'll be able to fight the diseases when the vaccines are injected to them.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So usually the healthy people will have sufficient immunity to fight against the bacteria which may possibly come in the future. So because of the high immunity, their body may start showing the adverse effects. Sometimes it may be rare to very rare. But actual need of the vaccine is for the ill patients whose defensive mechanism is very poor, less. So what happens? Vaccines, if it is unnecessarily given to healthy people, it may lead to adverse consequences instead of preventing the disease from coming from, right? So next issue is that cost and difficulty of studying effects, studying the events will increase with rare adverse events. See, we have already understood that the assessment of efficacy of vaccine is required in large population. You cannot something test in small population because vaccines are given for large population. Now, if the vaccine is going to produce the adverse event or adverse effect, then in order to confirm whether it is likely to produce such effect, you need to test it in the large population. Then only you can be certainly sure that whether it is a rare or very rare type of adverse consequences. Otherwise, it is very difficult to predict the adverse consequences, and you may have to be alert for every injection given. So large number of population means the amount of money which is invested also increases. So that is how the cost of the study increases with the difficulty in studying the adverse events or adverse effects which are especially rare to very rare in nature. So that is the policy problem. So what happens is that if an organization is having a certain amount of budget to assess the efficacy as well as safety of vaccine, it goes beyond that. So ultimately, the organization needs to stop their study or may have to cover up more duration in order to get the data. So this may lead to a kind of setback for the vaccine launching. Okay, so that is the another issue. The next issue is that most of the published articles available are with case reports or case series report, and nowadays in order to prevent such kind of small report influence, database is created, which we have already understood, that is the linked database, correct? Earlier we have already understood the pharmacoepidemiological methods, the linked database. See, we were trying to understand how the vaccine safety is going to be studied till the drug is approved in the market. So they do the study in certain number of population, but the problem comes only when adverse consequences are produced. In such cases, what happens is that they have to depend on the case report and case series report in order to conclude that this is the type of adverse consequences which is going to be produced. But we have also understood that there is a disadvantage whenever we focus on either case report or case series report for the misinterpretation, right? This is what the disadvantage we have understood earlier. So the misinterpretation will cause the problem for the retaining of the vaccine, particular vaccine in the market. So that is why now advanced countries like America, England, and Denmark, what they have done, they have created in a database. They have created in a database where the database gets the data from many countries or many cities in a country and accumulate the data. So accumulation of the data over a period of time will help to cover many patients in that database. So the many patients experience will be taken into the consideration. That is how the firm conclusion can be made that okay, this is the adverse effects which is possibly can happen among these people, like 1 in 100, 1 in 1000, 1 in 10,000, 1 lakh patients. Then you can certainly take care of the risk if at all it happens. But it is an issue because creating a database is not an easy matter, and covering the patients of a large population is not a small matter. You need to be vigilant in order to get the data, as well as try to be attached to be try to be vigilant and follow up so that the quality data comes. Data, even though it comes, you need to confirm that whether it is a quality data. That is very, very important. So that is why it is very important for us to know that what database we are trying to use it, and how does it influence the treatment, the risk which is associated with the vaccine. Correct. So this is the policy issue which can come out because the lacuna of the data. I hope this is clear to you, everyone. Can we move on to the next one? Yes, anybody has any doubt?
No, sir.
Okay, fine. So few people skip vaccination considering its risk, and number of such cases may result in disease outbreak. This will be the policy made. There will be a policy made to common for all. Like for example, measles and pertussis. See, like even though we know that there is a large awareness in the hospital setup, community setup, that every child who is born must undergo vaccination. Everyone knows it. Every parent almost know it. But it so happens that some of the people will be there. Like for example, those who are very poor. We have done one study in other college where when we tried questioning the vaccine about vaccinations, few parents have felt that vaccine can produce the adverse consequences. That is why they never taken their child to vaccinate. Never. So their child were grown without vaccination. Can you imagine? So, but their economic status was very poor. Like for example, those who are staying across the road. So that is the type of population which actually skipped the vaccination out of fear. Out of fear. Now, what happens in such cases is that the disease outbreak starts now, especially measles and pertussis, they start spreading again. So once they start spreading, what happens is that was if few are infected, and it is like they are likely to infect to many people. So even the vaccination, even though the awareness is there, but because of the fear, because of the fear, what happens that some people do not take it. That becomes a issue for the disease outbreak, especially kind of measles and pertussis. That is why the policy must be made in such a way that vaccination is must for everyone. Believe it or not, in advanced countries, the flu shot or the vaccination, what we call, it is mandatory to be taken every year. Otherwise, the next visit you make to the hospital will have a question for you, and they won't treat you until you get the flu shot and come to the hospital. To that extent, the advanced countries are, concerned about the vaccination. So such kind of policy also helps in India, like developing countries or more or less developed countries, in order to prevent such outbreak. Next one is the one. Cross-contamination of vaccine is a major issue for regulatory authorities for both pre and post-license monitoring or issuing. Why there is a cross-contamination? Let us understand what is this problem, why we should be very much concerned about it. George, can you tell me what is cross-contamination?
Or maybe any presence of microorganisms.
Yes, the vaccines are contaminated by microorganisms which are not supposed to be there in the vaccine. We know that vaccines contain attenuated or the completely inactivated or partially inactivated microorganisms, but except that microorganisms, other microorganisms should not come there. This is what we call it as cross contamination of the vaccine. Now, how does it become an issue for pre-licensing? Can you tell me, Kamal? How that visit becomes an issue for approval? Kesia Korean?
Sir, it becomes substandard.
Yes, the cross-contaminant vaccine becomes substandard. So we know, we are very clear that substandard vaccines are not approved. So that is how it becomes a problem during a pre-approval process as well as post-approval process. That means, like, when before you want to give a license, after you have given the license, in both the way it is problem. So this is then another issue that we may come across during the vaccine usage. The next thing is that since we know that vaccine causes the problem or a risk to the patient, then there should be a compensation program for injured people who are vaccinated is needed, right? So you need to compensate. So much of money will be given to you in case you become the victim of the risk that is associated with the vaccine usage. So such compensation program should be introduced by the pharmaceutical company or the clinical research organization which is enrolling the patient for the study, as well as the government when going for the vaccination process, because you are making mandatory for the patients, so I mean public, to get vaccinated. So it is it is a government moral duty also to compensate if at all something goes wrong after the injection of the vaccine. So if it is not, if there is no such kind of compensate problem, then it is a issue actually to be taken care of. The next issue is that some countries use vaccine when its price is less in spite of the risk associated. See, always we have learned from the drug concept that always how do you expect the drug to be? Let us understand from you only, because you already know it. Manoj, Lakshmi, how do you want the drug to be?
It should be rational.
It should be rational. No, what type of drug you need to use, you want to use.
Safe.
Safe and
Cure.
you want it to be effective or not?
Yes, effective.
Effective. You have to tell in terms of tactic. You have to always use the professional language. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Your answer is correct, but you should use professional language better.
Okay, sir.
So the drug, always we have studied that drug should be safe and effective. But you look at the funniest thing in some countries, what happens here that may create an issue there. Some countries use the vaccine when the price is less, even though the risk is associated. So what happens? This can lead to outbreak of the diseases, nothing else, and more patients will be affected. For example, Europe mumps vaccine is still used in some countries in spite of its higher risk of causing aseptic meningitis. Europe vaccine can cause aseptic meningitis. This is a risk associated with this vaccine. But because when the price is less, then they start using it. So it is an issue. So it should be made, the policy should be made in such a way that such vaccines should never be used depending on the price variation. Next issue which we come across is that application of the pharmacoepidemiological methods. So we have understood that how this pharmacoepidemiology is involved or associated with vaccine safety. We understood that in order to assess the safety among the large population, pharmacoepidemiology concepts are very useful. So when you want to use pharmacoepidemiological concept, you need to assess the safety from attributable risk, which we have understood. If you remember, attributable risk or how it is associated from exposure to non-exposure population. And also pharmacoepidemiology should be able to identify the risk factor that may permit the development of the valid contraindications. So when you do study on large population, what happens is that your data becomes strong, and you can say that yes, such kind of people, population number one, is not supposed to take this vaccine. Absolute contraindication data can be obtained. For example, now you know that many drugs causes the problem to the growing fetus. Embryological toxicity, embryo toxicity is produced. So you will always get the caution. Perhaps you have studied in the pharmacology that following drugs are contraindicated during pregnancy and lactation. Correct? You already know that. So in order to say that it is contraindicated firmly, you need to you need to have a large data. The large data is obtained from pharmacoepidemiological concept. This data not only helps to create a contraindication, but also to develop the safer vaccines, for the population. So these are the policy issues which surrounds the vaccine safety, right? We will take up the clinical issues in the next class. So is there any doubt till now? Anybody has any doubt? No doubt? Okay. If there is no doubt, then we will end up the class, right? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.